guys, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to another episode of Grumping with Jen! Don't know why the hands mean grumping, but okay, that's happened. So, this week I got torn a new asshole on the internet on an American medical forum for saying something outrageous and literally just obliterated on this thread until I'm like a little bit scared to go back there and post. And the reason I got this reaction, I suggested that possibly patients should be able to discuss their own healthcare with whoever's giving it. I'm not saying that they should dictate their own healthcare. I'm saying that they should understand their own healthcare and they should be aware of the options. And I don't mean just aware of the options for the UK, I mean aware of all the options, and maybe it's not possible to always go through all that, but they can go and do their own research and they can, they can go and see what's out there. So I don't think it's that crazy to suggest that any other word you come up with for people, like patients, they're still people. And it's really, really easy to forget that. And it's easy to forget it in all spheres of life, including if you live in a big city like I do, and you go out into the tube system, into the train system, and you see just like these waves of people coming at you, and they're just not like even, they're not even like people anymore. They're just like big waves of problems that you have to dodge and try not to barge into because they might punch you or tut at you loudly. Britain. Do you know that goldfish have a kind of mechanism, like a proprioception mechanism, where if they feel like they're bigger than another fish, then they won't move out of the way for it. The other fish has to scatter out the way. But if they come across something that they know is always there and always immovable, like the bubble stream or like a castle in the tank or whatever, then they will move up and around it. But if they come across something in a place that it's not normally in, like another fish that's just swimming around that happens to be in their way, there might be a moment, or they might actually not move because they're thinking, okay, wait a minute, I mean, just making the assumption that goldfish are thinking, just bear with me here, they're thinking, why should I move? Why should I get out of the way? Making a very heavy assumption that goldfish are thinking that, but the reality is that that's what every single person, almost every single person in a city is thinking when they're walking through crowds of what, kind of faceless, depersonalized people. Why should I move? I am doing this, I am going there, I am in a rush, and yeah, so are they. So is everybody. So it might be an idea to consider that when you're moving through. There's just not an easy way to break out of that mentality that not everybody, it's not all a big mass of problems, of stuff to deal with. The logic that some people use for this is if you tried to concentrate on each person as a person, you might not, you wouldn't, I don't think you would mentally be able to cope with it. I mean, I don't think I would. In some ways, you need to fade some people off and focus on some people. And what happens in professional environments is you mentally fade off the people that are your customers or your patients or any other word which creates that separation, and you focus in on the people that are your colleagues and your co-workers and, or anyone else in any kind of other service or aspect of where you're working that is gonna be kind of like you, not against the other sphere of person, but just, I can't think of a better word than against. And it happens so often in London, but I think, in healthcare it does happen that there's a separation, and maybe there's a perception that most patients won't understand all the ramifications of what's happening, or couldn't understand. And I don't think that that's giving credit to the fact that they're not just patients, they're not just customers, they're not just problems, they're not just obstructions to dodge. They're people. And in some situation, when you go into a shop, or when you're a patient, or when you're on the other side of the sphere, and you will see that in their eyes, you will see that degree of separation, and it's very hard to cross. I was actually in Boots the other day, and I was speaking to the pharmacist in there, and she was polite, she was absolutely fine, but the way that she was speaking to me, and no matter how friendly you are, no matter how much you try to engage, they keep that. And then only when I told her my career pathway and stuff, then she completely debarriered. I've made up that word, by the way. And then she was chatting normally, like a human, and it just takes that little to break down that barrier between people, between humans. And honestly, in any circumstance, I think that would be the best thing to complete whatever transaction you're trying to achieve, whether it be somebody getting healthy and going home and living a full life, or whether it be somebody getting a cheese sandwich in Tesco's without being annoyed that the cashier was rude to them or whatever. If we just take that time to chat and adopt a sort of more countryside mentality, where people will literally just be they'll meet at a bus stop. They're probably not going to see each other again, but they'll just have a 5 or 10 minute chat about something completely random, and it doesn't matter, because what's the harm in being friendly, and what's the harm in speaking to someone person to person? I'm not talking about dropping your professionalism, or I'm not talking about treating people as close friends or telling people everything. I'm just talking about making sure that you remember that they're people. I know I am going on a little bit of a rant here, but as it is Grumping with Jen, I'm just gonna say that I might keep that right to have a little bit of a rant, because I've seen it so much through my life, and I really, really want to break it. And I think it would be better for everyone. And the other thing you get as well, of course, in any kind of professional field, is the barrier between different, what they perceive as levels of achievement. You can tell I used to be a gamer, can't you? And yeah, so people that are cleaning places, or people that are doing the accountants. Not doing the accountants, that's the wrong thing. Doing the accounts, that's the one. So one would be considered lower, one would be considered slightly higher, then a manager, maybe higher than that, and then up and up and up. In a medical field, it might be care, or then nurse, then doctor. But there have been cases where this hierarchy, whether spoken or unspoken, and it can be unspoken, but it's still very, very much present, can actually be dangerous in a way, because the people that you consider to be lower, they can still see stuff happening. If they notice something that's gone wrong, and they're afraid to say because they don't want to speak up to the boss or whatever, then things can go seriously wrong. And especially in any kind of where any kind of health is involved, whether it be veterinary or human or anything like that. So in a way, it's good, I feel, to have what they call a flat hierarchy, where you do what if your part of your role is to listen and act on the instructions of another person's role. For example, a nurse would act on the instructions of a doctor. Then do that, obviously. But if they give you an instruction and you are well, no, wait, that's wrong. No, I know that dose is wrong. Or if somebody says to you, if you're working in a shop, don't bother locking the doors tonight. If the manager says that to you, you would be like, really? You have that ability to speak up and say, wait 1 second, I don't think this is quite right, I just want to say this and this and this. And then they might even say, well, for example, in the shop example, I've got a builder coming in 2 minutes to do something, so just don't lock the door. And they'll be like, fine. But they might not have even thought of what you're thinking of, and they might, reconsider. Because except for at the extreme end of the spectrum, the extreme lower end of the spectrum, I think you can get wisdom and you can get perception, and useful perception, from everybody. And I think, well, in my mind, that's really important to remember. So that's the end of that ranty bit of the section. I hope you can actually make some sense of that. It was just something that was bugging me a little bit. On to the next section. The other thing that I wanted to chat about this week is my new, I'm going to call it a mini-series called Weird Shit I Found Out This Week. And actually, this might need to be subtitled Horrifying Shit I Found Out This Week. Because yesterday when I was browsing the internet, as I spend an embarrassing amount of my free time doing, I came across an old story from 1986 in which then, and for about 100 years before then, apparently, babies in intensive care units, neonatal intensive care units, had been having surgeries, like necessary surgeries, but surgeries with only the use of paralysing drugs and no anaesthesia. So they're injected with something that means they can't move, and then they're just lying like, and then they're just completely conscious. And this was done because obviously you can't remember, or most people, almost everybody can't remember what happened when they were a baby, and there was an assumption, and I'm not sure how much body of proof there was behind it, that babies just couldn't feel pain to that level. Even though if you were to take like a sample of blood or something from a baby, they will like be like, ah, like they'll like kind of pull away from you a bit, because the same, I mean, people will mentally train themselves to be like, ah, just stay still for a second. But obviously babies will jump because it hurts. So I'm not sure how they thought that surgeries, full surgeries, open heart surgeries, were fine without anaesthesia. And I was in public and I was reading this article and I was like, what? So in 1986, somebody called Jeffrey Lawson, when I say somebody, it was a young baby in an intensive care unit, had open heart surgery whilst under one of these paralysing drugs that had been going on for literally a century beforehand. And the mother found out, and then the baby died, basically. The baby died after 6 hours of shock. Not fucking surprised, because being in open heart surgery for almost 2 hours, completely conscious whilst your chest is being pulled open, will probably put you in a little bit of shock. And there have been other cases, apparently, where mothers have refused to sign for surgeries being done without anaesthesia, and they've been considered to be unfit mothers, or like mothers that are not putting the welfare of their child first. What? So I know I'm laughing, but I'm just laughing because I'm absolutely horrified. And there are also some anecdotal stories that some of the behaviours displayed by the baby in these situations, in these intensive care units, actually similar to behaviours shown by post-traumatic stress disorder victims. That's pretty horrifying when you think about it. Luckily, the mother of Jeffrey Lawson went into this, found out about it, and kicked up a huge fuss, and basically changed the protocols and changed the way this is done, and created a huge amount of public perception of what's done in these situations. And it was changed, and there was a huge barrel load of research after this happened, and a huge barrel load of media. And yes, it was decided that we should be providing anaesthesia for children and anyone undergoing any kind of surgery like that. I mean, whether it's a local anaesthetic, general anaesthetic, whatever the level of surgery is, you need to provide some pain relief because you're cutting into things. What are you doing? But that's going to go under the weird things of the week that I learned, and also horrifying things of the week. But I'm not sure how good it would be if I just started something called horrifying things of the week, because I think I would run out of things, maybe, or maybe not. So guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my mini grumpy rant that sort of turned into a little bit of preaching, but it's just something that I feel really strongly about, and it's my channel, goddammit, so I shall talk about it if I want to. Yeah, that was that. I'll stop now. But thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you next time for hopefully some outdoorsy videos, travel videos, storytime vlogs, and a bit more grumping, because there's always room for grumping. Bye!